Hello, viewers. Tonight, I'm going to talk about, I suppose, my plans for this channel. For the most part, I have realized that this channel has a very broad range of commentary videos, though they're all sort of in the same format. Either me reading something, such as a blog that I've written, or me basically speaking with gameplay in the background, rambling basically. A lot of people seem to like the manga reading and commentary, which, truth be told, at first I did not exactly know how it would do that, but it seems narrating as well as giving commentary, apparently that is well liked by some people. So I certainly do plan to continue that. However, I have been somewhat delayed by certain issues, and that may take some time, though it may come sooner rather than later. I do believe I'm on chapter 6 of Claymore. Yes. I think that I may be somewhat hindered due to some family issues. I happen to be taking care of a relative, and most of the free time that I had to make videos is going to be somewhat cut. So I may only be able to make videos during the night, it would seem, which, to be entirely honest, is not so bad, considering that oftentimes when I do make videos, I do make them during the night. As far as the FromSoft content, the Elden Ring and Dark Souls and Demon Souls content, there really is not very much more to discuss, so to speak. Well, of course, there's always a lot to discuss in regard to the implications of those pieces of media that FromSoft has created. I mean, hath created. I've been trying to, and some of you peradventure have noticed that I've been trying to practice my early modern English. Some of you may be used to that. Some of you are probably thinking, what's the point? But due to the nature of many of the books I read, especially the King James Bible, I try to use early modern English words for no particular reason, just practice. So instead of hath, has, I like to say hath, hath, or does and doth, so forth. It is not as though those particular words are not in general use to some degree, especially in written works, but some individuals who are somewhat more grammatical and who have a certain degree of grammatical acumen oftentimes do use such words as hath, doth, tis, as well as others. But in order for me to really sort of get myself in a routine of reading many of the older books, I like to incorporate early modern English into my common speech. So I say things peradventure. Peradventure means perhaps. That's what peradventure means, or peradventure means maybe. That's a synonym for maybe, perhaps, and peradventure are all synonyms. The more words you have that are synonyms, the greater syntax and the sort of diversity of words you can use during writing and speech. Always practice it. Anyhow, some of you may have noticed that. You may have thought, I wonder why he's speaking that way. He's saying farewell. My goodness. But yes, sometimes I do speak like that for the purpose of study, for the purpose of practice. If I don't do it occasionally, I will never truly, as it would happen, become skillful in the use of those words. I like to try to write with certain words as well as speak them. That is very important to me. Let me see, what other videos do I do? Oh yes, sometimes I do religious videos as well. I have different subscribers from all sorts of videos. Critique videos, critiquing certain individuals who are teaching what may be called heresies, but really, whether we call it heresy or not, all of these things are matters of opinion, really. I mean, someone has to decide something is a heresy. In regard to that, I may do some of those in the future. Who knows? To be honest, I can't really say, but I mean to say in this video that basically all types of videos are going to be delayed. For now, I will try to create what I can. It just may be at a slower pace. And I think my most ambitious project, as I said, as I had referred to earlier, is the reading of the Claymore manga, which, when you're doing it with commentary, you can't exactly make those videos fast because you have to. I mean, it wouldn't be as good as if I just read through just chapter by chapter and didn't give my opinions about the chapter as well as give commentary, because I could just read it straight through, but that would be boring, because narration can only be so entertaining. So oftentimes it's far more interesting when you get to hear someone else's opinions about a particular chapter of manga, which, as far as I'm concerned, in regard to manga, not only do you not see very much manga reading, on YouTube you usually don't see many people really just talking about talking about all the implications of it, what they think it means, what they think such and such symbolism is. It's all very interesting to talk about. I've had some very good discussions about manga with some very, interesting people on the internet. But you never get to have those exciting discussions if you don't express your opinions, which, sometimes, people agree, people disagree. It's very, you don't know what the reception is going to be. However, oftentimes, you do happen to spur some very exciting discussions, which I'm glad that I have. Though I must say, I peradventure have chosen a manga which is very, how should I say, difficult to finish in a timely manner. Claymore has 155 chapters. Of course, most of those chapters are fighting, but the point of my commentary and reading is basically not just to read it, but as I said, to sort of express my opinions, sort of have discussions in the forums, which it all takes time. It all takes time. I'm not going to give up on it because I saw the person who was reading Berserk. He stopped. Now, as I said, is it going to be something that's going to be finished in a few weeks? It's taken a long time, to be entirely honest. It's probably gonna take a long time, though. I should hope that the videos have more value than simply a reading, a narration, so to speak. There is one person who's very excited about it. He wrote so in the forums, the comment forums, and he is looking forward to the next chapter. And hopefully, I can get that chapter out very soon. Hopefully, and other individuals who seem to like it. So that is always a good thing, always quite wonderful. But as I said, that might take some time. As far as future plans are concerned, as for new videos that may be coming out, there's a particular individual by the name of Yoko Ishii, a Japanese woman, who is what might very well be called a Shinto nationalist. And that is a subject that I wish to speak upon in regard to cultural implications because, well, the cultural implications of it happen to be, they're extremely interesting. A lot of people do not really understand the very real effect that the Japanese Shinto has had on Japanese people, especially Japanese individuals who are not Ainu, so to speak, individuals who are of the Yamato. It's very interesting. Yamato is apparently, it's their sort of concept of the spirit of Japan, so to speak, which they believe is in all racially, it's sort of a racist philosophy, or rather ideology, and it's hard to explain. But I am already collecting citations about Shinto, which is quite, and I'm just going to be honest, the Imperial Shinto, as it was studied by royalty and most people in Imperial Japan, recognized the emperor as a god. Descended from Amaterasu, the goddess of the sun. And there are other different gods and goddesses of Japanese religion who they take it very seriously. And they are in addition to kami and the ancestral worship that is done in Japan. It also has some extremely interesting implications that I think might very well open some people's eyes as to what may be called a type of Japanese worldview, a type of Japanese nationalism that is not only present today, but was also present during World War II. Excuse me, people, one moment. I apologize, viewers. My tea, my tea water was boiling, and I had to put the leaves in the pot and make a pot of tea. As I was saying, yes, national, or rather what may be called Imperial Shinto, will be a very interesting subject. And one of the reasons why my channel is so broad and the video variety is so broad is because although these all follow the same format, they're basically commentary videos, they're basically me talking. They to some degree, I deem them to be educational. However, the range of subjects I happen to cover, to talk about, they oftentimes are things that I am quite interested in. And as I was saying, the figure in question is Yoko Ishii. Now, this woman is part of what may be called the Japanese conservative movement. There are people on Fox News and many other conservative outlets, media outlets, so to speak, as well as conservative figures or people who promote red pill or black pill, such as Black Pigeon Speaks, the sort of culture that has to do with MGTOW, men going their own way, and a lot of other ideologies. There are Americans, basically, who are promoting Yoko Ishii. Now, Japanese nationalism is entirely centered around, or rather, one of the main fundamentals, you might say, of Japanese nationalism is Shinto. And much of that nationalism, it was entirely at odds with what we may call American patriotism, values, what have you, because it is, to be entirely honest, a very racial ideology. In which the ethnic, or not even the ethnic, the racial Japanese individual is considered to be superior to his Ainu counterparts in Japan and in other racial groups. Even Okinawans are looked down upon to some degree. Many people do not know this about Japan. They think it is quite very open, very so-called progressive, a word which has been given a political meaning, which I don't necessarily agree with. My allegiances, if you wish to know, are very clear. I am not patriotic in any sense. I am like, in my opinion, I'm like Anaxagoras, that Greek philosopher. Someone had asked him a question such as, well, what about your fatherland? What about your family inheritance and the like? And Anaxagoras, he pointed up to the sky and he said, that is my fatherland. He said he was very concerned with his fatherland, and he pointed to heaven. And basically what this meant was that this individual believes that the spiritual precedes, that is to say, surpasses the physical, and that is what really matters. And basically all philosophers of any real merit agreed that virtue was the very purpose of life and the very cause of happiness, and to go from it is to basically be either a slave to passion or basically a fool, a person who does not love wisdom. And philosophy, that is what philosophy means. Philo, to love, and Sophia, wisdom, loving of wisdom. Now, many of my viewers or at least some of them, are Christian, and this adheres to our understanding of, well, what does it say in the Gospels? Jesus is wisdom, and wisdom is life. And so any Christian who has much sensibility, much in the way of good sense, will love wisdom and will basically be a philosopher if it is within their mental capacity. It is better, as a particular book said that was written by a very devout Christian, who did discover a great deal of mysteries regarding personal prayer and many other such matters, which I may very well talk about. His name is on the tip of my tongue, but I forget his name. But I will talk about this individual. He wrote a book, very good book, her and another individual, a quietist, so to speak, which is an interesting philosophy, interesting way of doing things, an interesting worldview. Anyhow, oh my goodness, my gameplay was pretty bad, by the way, it seems. I did not know how to use the sword very well at playing as the female character in this particular game, which is called The Hunted Forge of Demons, I think. I don't know. But I enjoyed it. From what I've played, I enjoyed far more than Elden Ring and just about any Dark Souls game I've played. The controls are so responsive. It's like night and day, to be entirely honest, and I quite liked it. Anyhow, as I was saying, he said it's better to be, I'm not particularly sure what was it, to lack knowledge and have a simple faith than to be prideful and very intelligent or very wise or what have you. So wisdom needeth humility, and a man who cares about virtue, or rather careth, you see, I'm trying to use the early modern English suffixes just for practice, people. And so I have to catch myself sometimes so that I can properly utilize those suffixes and say eth instead of eth instead of s for my verbs. But if one careth about virtue, obviously humility is a very important virtue, and it is one that should be united with wisdom, or so wise men do say, and in my opinion that is very true. But anyhow, I see a lot of pride in regard to nationalistic movements, and as well as libertine, sort of liberal, so to speak, movements. Politics themselves are very, how should I say, they appeal a great deal to pride. Anyhow, Yoko Ishii, she's a woman who just like many Japanese women, such as the custom to really act cute, and she doesn't really look all that good, so to speak, physically, in my opinion, though she thinks she does, and she has that sort of behavior that is very characteristic of women who seem to think they're very, well, some women who are pretty but act sort of, how should it be said, dumb. She's almost akin to the sort of stereotype of a dumb blonde. In a sense, she's not very. It's some of the things she says are quite ridiculous, but that's an individual we're going to cover. She denies that Japan had Korean comfort woman, and many people who talk about comfort women, they don't realize these comfort women were all types of races. Some of them were even Dutch from Indonesia, because there were Dutch people in Indonesia, and basically the Japanese, who have a long history of prostitution, would turn them into sex slaves and had a whole trafficking, a whole type of sex trafficking where they would take women, imprison them, and basically send them to their soldiers in different what were called comfort houses. Lust is a very prominent vice in Japan. There was an individual who I know who thinks quite highly of Japanese media, for example. It wasn't something I could really understand at the time because I've had a completely different experience from him, to be honest. And so it's not as though I think less of his opinion. It is simply that I've seen a lot of perversion in Japanese culture. That is not to say that I haven't seen perversion in Western culture. I've seen sex appeal in all cultures, but Japan has had a rich history of prostitution. Right? Now, I know that prostitution has been practiced in all countries, basically, as far as I know. Yet in Japan, it has been legal for so very long. It has had no, how should it be said, negative stigma, or rather negative stigmas regarding the professions have not necessarily been, they haven't been discouraged. And what that caused, especially during World War II, was the sense that, all right, there's enemies, and you can take their women, and you can just take them for yourselves and satisfy yourself with them. And so that caused a great deal of rapine and all sorts of particularly horrible behavior that was not, it was seen in other armies too during World War II, but the Japanese had done more of those sexual crimes than any, I can say definitively, any army, at least in Asia. Now, the Soviet Union did some horrible things in Germany. Now, in terms of the sexual abuse, the rapine of women. Yet, it must be said that Japan, they didn't just do this in one country. They did it in Indonesia. They did it in the Philippines. They did it in Korea. They did it in Vietnam. Some of ye, in all likelihood, do not understand the full extent of the real perversion and the lust and the sexual offenses that the Japanese army really did engage in. And that culture is very much alive, especially in the Yakuza, in the sort of black market, the type of strange cultures that really surround it. As you can see, the character got stuck at this point. It was quite horrible. But this game doesn't have really that many glitches. I'd heard that this game had plenty of glitches, but not really. I mean, you see, you can't really jump off ledges, and it kind of stops you from doing it, which oftentimes it works fine, but it didn't in this case. But anyhow, as I was saying, I have to disagree with the commenter who was talking somewhat, and I think we all have different experiences. And I would say that all cultures to some extent have interesting sexual culture, but in particular, Yoko Ishii denies the crimes of Japanese war crimes of World War II. She denies it. She denies the rapine. She denies the crimes that really stand out and that people always talk about in regard to Japan because they were just so horrible. And a lot of them had to do with sex. It had to do with soldiers doing, really just taking a woman and making her their slaves, and you had a comfort house. And basically every soldier was allowed to take their time with these women. And these women have horrible experiences. They really were slaves. They weren't prostitutes, they were slaves. A lot of people don't realize the real scope of that history. But Yoko Ishii, she undermines the history of it. A lot of those Japanese people are waiting for all of these comfort women who were abused during World War II to just die off. A lot of them are waiting. But whether they wait or not, people have been asking for an official apology from Japan to all of these countries. Now, Japan has given hath, rather, because I'm practicing early modern English, hath given reparations to some countries, as far as I know, but they have not apologized about their soldiers making literal sex slaves of many women who were from these countries. World War II was pretty awful, but many people, they don't really recognize the scope of Japanese war crimes and the racial ideology that really sort of animated it, that gave it life, that gave it its real spirit, this belief of the Yamato, the spirit of Japan in every single sort of real Japanese person racially, which is quite a ridiculous concept due to the fact that there's been migration from China. There's been intermixture with Mongolian people, Chinese people, Ainu people, all types. And we don't even need to really guess at it, we just know. We know that every stock from every country is mixed, and people such as myself who are Christian, we have a different idea about race. Or at least those people who take very seriously the verses, especially of the Gospels, in which it is said that we are all of one blood. So if we're all, and even the Genesis story of or what we may call a history, so to speak. And there was one commenter who he didn't seem to understand the way I used the word religion. And I responded to him, but he didn't respond back, and I thought I'd made it somewhat clear, but apparently he didn't really understand it. But religion is a synonym to worldview, philosophy, ideology. But that was on an Elden Ring video, and it was very... he didn't really want to engage in the conversation. But that's a whole nother issue. But religion is a general thing, so to speak. Their ideology as Japanese nationalists, as people who practice Imperial Shinto, they want the Japanese authoritarian state back, and they want the emperor to have control of Japan. They want the return of the shogunate. Some of them do. They want a sort of authoritarian type of state, because for a lot of them they've sort of lost hope in a lot of, or rather in what Japan is. They don't like the culture. They don't like what has become of it. But truth be told, there's a lot to be thankful for, but a lot of those people just simply are not thankful for those things. You can never satisfy a patriot. You can never satisfy a nationalist. You can never satisfy a person who is so very attached to a fictional concept. Now, people, peradventure you do not know that nations do not exist. Realistically, concretely, nations are simply fictions that we create to collectivize, to have groups. Nations are not good things. Every philosopher who speaks of heaven with a good deal of sense believes that the nation that they associate themselves with is heaven and the people of heaven. The people who care about spiritual things, and they believe that there's a creator who has a place for them, and that place is their nation, and so they're not patriotic people. I am among those individuals. It is very hard to discuss what may be called politics or nationhood or worldly things, so to speak, things that have to do with this world, when you have a spiritual outlook, when the problems of the world do not affect ye as much. And so you're not as concerned about the fatherland or the motherland. And this woman, Yoko Ishii, she talks a lot about the motherland, which is very interesting. Japanese people, of course, or at least a good many of them, and more so than ye might expect, happen to believe that they are the descendants of Amaterasu. Not, some people may say that Japanese people are not religious. That I think, and I know that is untrue. They're not religious in what some of ye may consider to be the conventional sense, so to speak. I've been practicing the plural you, and it is objective form type of address, ye and thee, so please excuse me. I'm probably using it wrong. I also have been trying to use less contractions. But anyhow, I have to stop talking about grammar and my little exercises that I do that oftentimes confuse people. Anyhow, yes, but for this woman, Japan is the fatherland. It is going to be a very interesting discussion about patriotism, about what it means to be a patriot, what it means to be a nationalist, and why there are some particular individuals who are in America, in the United States, so to speak. They're promoting Japanese nationalism, Japanese conservatism. Why? Japanese nationalism and conservatism is entirely different. It's antithetical to what we may very well consider to be, how should it be said, American conservatism. It's very strange, people. Not to say that political ideologies are themselves not religions. If you hold anything above God, it may be said that, for example, patriotism, that is in a sense your primary worldview, your primary religion, ideology, so to speak. In my opinion, and these are all abstract words, I can use them in many ways, which a particular poster who was an Elden Ring proponent, I was talking about religion. He didn't understand how flexible that word was, and he didn't want to get in a comment. He didn't want to get in a real conversation about it. Instead, he just decided to let the downvotes on my videos stack up and have people give him thumbs up for his comment. I thought, yeah, this isn't really productive of anything, because I've just explained to you how I use the word religion, but you don't seem to care, but that's alright. Anyhow, as I said, this is an education channel. There's going to be all types of talk about words. It can become very annoying to many people. But yes, I certainly do plan to do a whole lot of videos when I can over time about nationalism, patriotism, because I think about this woman Yoko Ishii, and I'm wondering, why are there's so many Americans who are so interested in promoting Yoko Ishii. This woman is very... she can speak English with some degree of proficiency. I would say not that well. I do not see the appeal. I simply do not see the appeal. However, she is very highly rated by some very interesting individuals in the conservative movement. And as I have said, I am not conservative nor liberal. Hopefully I will be heavenly. But that hasn't happened yet. Because I'm not in the kingdom that I represent. Or at least try to represent. I would rather be heavenly than worldly. And worldly people are rather very concerned with nations, politics, pharmakia, drugs, and particular needles that have very dubious substances in them. Some of ye may know what I'm referring to. We need not speak any more of it. We know what the subject I'm referring to happens to be, and I will just leave it at that. But anyhow, what else am I planning to do? More blogs, I suppose, about Elden Ring, the FromSoft games. As I've been saying before, I may just simply, for the purpose of variety, just read a different manga as well. Just to... Not that I'm going to give up reading Claymore, but basically add a new one just for the sake of variety. It is truly hard to get in the spirit of things, so to speak, when I'm reading the same manga for such a very long time. Not to say it isn't exciting, it's just that, I don't know, enthusiasm is sort of hard to come by. Especially when one speaks so much of one subject. Not to say it is not enjoyable, but I may change things up just a little. And I really do appreciate the viewers who really have taken an interest in it and really like it. I didn't expect it would be well received by some people, to be entirely honest. But thank ye for watching. Anyhow, I wonder what else I should talk about, to be entirely honest. I was planning to get a capture card so that I could capture gameplay from my console, but I've decided to use my PC instead. So hopefully the gameplay will be good for commentary, because you are not alone in not particularly, and I would think just about everyone likes to see something while they're hearing commentary, or rather just an audio video like this, especially on YouTube. Now, in regard to podcasts are a bit different because you can just listen to it. And you can always make an MP3 file and just have the audio if you wish. But this is basically me just rambling, and I even have a whole playlist called Rambles, because sometimes I just do that. But I have to say about this game, I like it better than Elden Ring. I like it better than Dark Souls. It is probably the most responsive sort of swords and sorcery games I've played. And I really like the story. The characters are really interesting. I recommend it. It's called The Hunted Forge of Demons. It is very interesting. It's very it has a combat system that there was online play. This game was made in 2011, as far as I know. With reshade, which is what I have, the colors in the game don't look like this. It's just that I apply reshade to just about every game, and I won't deny that the gaming computer that I have, I prefer to play older games. I have some problems with some of the newer games. I know some other people who have some better PCs, but I do personally, it's far easier for me to play older games like this. And I get repacks. I got this game for free because I go to repack sites. If you don't know what a repack is essentially people sharing the game, and you can use it. In basically this state, it basically plays just like a game that you've bought with actual money. It's just that you didn't have to pay for it, and it plays. The quality of these games happen to be just as good as the games that you would buy, and so I quite appreciate that, the fact that people share. And so the site I use is Repack Games. And to be entirely honest, a lot of ambitious things, like having two characters, one who's a warrior type character, another who is a rogue type character. They have their own little magic system. These innovative things were basically done. Games like this that were really fun to play, were like Kingdoms of Amalur. They were done during that interesting PS3 generation or Xbox 360 generation, in which the developers would take risks, so to speak. They would be innovative. And now it seems as though Elden Ring has simply stagnated the gaming culture. If it's not Elden Ring, people think it's boring. If it's not like Elden Ring, people think it's boring. If it's not like Dark Souls or Bloodborne, people think it's boring. Oh, there's too much commentary in this game. People are talking too much. I saw so many dumb things regarding the Forspoken reviews and I saw plenty of people enjoying it, but apparently if games have talking in it for long periods of time, if they play like classic JRPGs, and many people already know this, a lot of games are linear. A lot of games don't let you just run all over the place and do what you want. Of course, you could do that in Forspoken, but people did not like the fact that there was so much talking and story. But sometimes I just go back to games like this and Kingdoms of Amalur, games that were more simple, games that were not as, I don't know. And games that weren't so gloomy and depressing, games that did something different, honestly. Not to say that Dark Souls it used to be different, but now it's, Dark Souls is it's an idea that's been used so much. Everyone's trying to make the game super dark now, right? And is very, to me, sometimes modernity can be somewhat jarring. Not to say that these games aren't modern, the ones that are older, but it's just that, oh my goodness. It seems as though when I go back to the older games, I enjoy them more, and so that is what I often do. Because I find myself in a position now where I can't really enjoy many of the new games. I really can't. They're not very enjoyable to me. Forspoken did something different. It received terrible reviews and just a high degree of negative opinion. I don't know. I do not know. But anyhow, people unfortunately did not seem to understand that opinions are subjective, but yes. And what else did I have to say about my channel and my plans? To be entirely honest, I don't really know what else to say, honestly. You can expect some videos. In the future, that more manga reading as well as something about Shinto. I think I've gotten tired to some extent about jumping in the FromSoft drama and sort of I really sort of ruffled the feathers of many of the FromSoft faithful, so to speak. I really did. And I play the games, but I have a different opinion. Because I have a different opinion, that upsets a lot of individuals who will not, for the most part, provide arguments. They're still trying to dislike bomb in 2023, when we don't even have a dislike button and you have to download separate apps just to see dislikes. And it's quite ridiculous. It doesn't really, but it's quite fine. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, more viewer engagement is better anyhow. But I may be doing some religious content as well. Things having to do with philosophy, ideology, worldviews of different sorts. You can certainly expect something. In the near future. The channel is not going to remain inactive for very long. However, I am going to have to be somewhat tactical about how I make these videos, because my time throughout the day is occupied with some very pressing family matters, and so I just want you, the viewers, to know that. Information. Let me think. Is there anything else that I would like to say? Yes. I've said this before. If I don't happen to respond to your comments, I will do so in video format. Alright. And I have so many. Some of my subscribers, all 26 of them, it seems though, as I said, you all come from different videos. Some of the Christians come from the more Christian, so religious-oriented videos. Some people subscribe for the manga reading and commentary. Other people, per adventure, were interested in the whole the Demon Souls and Elden Ring videos, and some of you are interested about that. I would say that I can't really say that I can. I will try to satisfy all of you. That may be an impossible task, but I will certainly try to, because since I have a number, and I've looked at the subscriber, the sort of videos that people have subscribed from, and they've subscribed from a broad range of videos, and my channel has a broad variety of videos. As I said, it's basically all commentary, so I suppose in regard to commentary, it depends on who a person likes, I guess I would say. So, yes, this will probably not change, in that I still will probably be doing a broad range of videos. I don't ever expect to get really a huge subscriber base, but I have videos all over the internet, on BitChute, on OogTube. I even have some on Goyim TV, which was a very interesting experience. I don't recommend you go there. But hey, I mean, it's a platform. Oh my goodness. And I think that was arranged by the Goyim Defense League, which is a very interesting group. A sort of racial group especially, which I don't subscribe to, but hey, if there's a platform, I even upload to a French video platform, Crowdbunker, or rather I have an account on it and I wish to upload my videos there too. Because the subjects of my videos are, I haven't received any sort of action against my channel or the video topics yet, but I always try to have backup. It's just like I have a lot of ideas of things I could talk about, such as news, different news articles. But with news, it's very interesting. There are very interesting policies on YouTube regarding news. There are so many interesting things happening. It would most certainly be an interest of mine to really talk about some of the very pertinent issues that are happening in different countries. What has happened over the last few years, so-called pandemics, all types of interesting information that certain individuals are quite interested in. So, I don't think I will ever use the captions, because I think YouTube sort of has an algorithm that basically is able to censor you if you use them. I could be wrong, but some of the things I have talked about, they may seem tame to many of ye. Yet, I am somewhat, how should it be said, apprehensive of problems that could result from many of the topics that I talk about. I was censored on TikTok for a little while, but I do not use TikTok very much. I go into the comment sections of TikTok for some of my videos, and it is, oh my goodness, it's the TikTok user, and I don't know. It's just the people I have encountered there. It wasn't so much that they were so very insulting, but many of the comments were so foolish. But anyhow, why should I complain? I've received most of my views from TikTok, but they're just clips of these long form videos here on YouTube. So this is where you'll find most of them. But anyhow, basically, I've said all that I want to say. There will be new videos. I'm sorry for the pause in this video, and I recommend that you skip that, because it's I don't really like having pauses in my video, but unfortunately, it cannot be helped. I thought this video would be shorter, but once I start recording, I pretty much just talk. It's very It's very much improv. It's improvisational, so to speak. Not to mention, I have to test out the microphone some way. And I'm very surprised this microphone has done as well as it has. Well, people, may ye be blessed and farewell. Okay, I will be cutting this off in a moment. Alright.